look, spring flowers. Spring flowers in this high desert country, and spring rains. And so what of all this great awakening that we are in as of spring after a long, dark winter? What's happening with this shift from fear into love that we're all in? Okay, something has radically changed on the planet since solstice. At solstice, the Mayan calendar ended and a new age began. And part and parcel of this new age is that the energetic fields on the planet have shifted into the love vibration. We come out of centuries of thousands of years of being run by fear. What's up now is that the love is ascendant. And at this point, what does this mean? It means that all of those who are in the love impulse will find themselves more and more supported in who they are and in what they want to do. And those in the fear impulse find it all exacerbated by the love that's coming into the planet. And there are individuals all over the planet who represent the love, like Bradley Manning. And they're speaking out of the love to the fear impulse. Fear, it has to let go here. And it is. And it's not always a pretty sight, but that's what's going on. And so, well, what do you see when you look out at the world these days? I guess it looks like a basket case, or it looks like something's coming apart at the seams, which it is, because the old ideas don't work. The old systems don't work. And all over the planet, the ecosystems are collapsing. And the ultimate foundation of civilization is not, quote, reason, unquote, it's the earth. And if we do not treasure and guard the health and the abundance of the planet, we are in deep trouble. And we are in deep trouble, in fact, with the planet. The old systems are going. I'm going to talk more about this. I said with the birth of a new age, we need new paradigms. We need new ideas. What's happening astrologically at this time is that the Piscean age of so many male dualisms, mind, body, heaven, earth, man, woman, the Piscean era of male thinking is over. And we're well into the Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age is to be about the feminine. So all this shift, this awakening, as of a beautiful and brilliant springtime, has something to do also with the reappearance of the feminine in history. Feminine energy has not been strong here for many thousands of years, and suddenly it's returning. It's like the return of the light after a long dark winter, and of course it has a place for women. Okay, so I have said that we need new ideas for a new era, a new age. And I have begun, I laid out in several talks modern science, and then I've gone on to lay out reincarnation. I'm just going to summarize some of these ideas. I really want to go on and explore the very foundations of the universe and what's going on down there. But I think we have to back up a little bit and hit some of the high points of these ideas. I have said consciousness has emerged as a term and a problem in the life sciences. Most scientists think it can be explained by existing scientific principles. I have said it cannot. And in fact, it points totally beyond present-day science to a new view of the universe where consciousness and not matter or matter and energy is the right fundamental term for the universe. It's the true basis of the universe. And if you remember, then I went on to talk about the near-death experience and making new Copernican revolution among our fundamental terms. Because most people think matter is first, and matter produces consciousness. And neuroscientists are convinced that it's produced by neurons in the brain. If you remember those talks, I said, these are just assumptions, and they don't hold up. They're completely refuted by facts like the near-death experience. The person up there, the guy, the patient, his body is brain dead in the bed, but he's alive and well at the ceiling, watching people work on his body below, able to see without eyes, hear without ears, and think without a brain. There isn't a single principle of science, past, present, or probably future, that can explain that. And so I went on then to begin to lay out what a consciousness universe would look like, contrasting it with the Cartesian universe of things, matter and mechanisms, pushed and pulled about like by the forces. It functions blind. It should be running down according to modern physics, but in fact it's running up. And there's something just totally false about this view of things. And so I've been talking about how we need to open our little Cartesian box and let in the light and take a look at the greater universe. Awakening. Awakening has something to do with letting in the light. And so if you remember those talks, I went on and reinterpreted most of the data of modern science in the light of this term, consciousness. A brilliant, bold, and beautiful new term. A simple, single principle. There are not minds and bodies. There are not heavens and earth. There are not all these dichotomies. There's one principle of the universe. It is consciousness. And the universe consists of consciousness in form, consciousness formless. The physical world is consciousness in form. The purely spiritual worlds are consciousness formless. And I've said that we live in one universe that's just one, probably, of infinite, both purely spiritual and physical universes. There are other universes in our living room. Most of the dark energy of space, 97% of the energy of the universe, is really spiritual worlds showing up in the interstices of our physical world. So I'm giving a very new universe picture. And so consciousness points to a new view of the universe where consciousness is the right fundamental term. Science has to be stood on its head to make sense out of all of the data, the accumulative data of modern science, and the total inability of modern science to solve what they call the mind-body problem, or the problem of consciousness. And of course, this has immediate implications for the earth. It means that every being on the earth has consciousness, is a spiritual, physical, conscious being like ourselves. Let the barriers go down. Human beings have always promoted themselves to top place, and one of the ways they do this is by denying consciousness to the earth. The modern scientific image of nature, for the most part, portrays the earth as devoid of consciousness. That image is what's driving the destruction of the planet, and it's in fact driving us all crazy. It's false. And the whole of science is actually based on a false view of matter that has been in place right from the beginning. The conviction that matter is something which has no intelligence, no inner life, no thought or feeling, anything like that. That goes right back to the beginning. And it's the reason science is missing the earth at this point, and it's part of the reason that the human race is in deep trouble with the earth. We have never gotten the planet right. And now we have to, because all over the earth, the ecosystems, millions of years in the making, are beginning to collapse. and political leaders are still saying very little about it. But that's what's really real on the planet. And so the consciousness universe gives us a whole new way to look at the earth. Interacting systems of consciousness, intersubjective, interrelated, interdependent, one. And I would say consciousness has field properties. The old view of matter is that it's the discrete, separate, and disconnected. Look around, it's all separate and disconnected, and it has no interior life, no intelligence. The consciousness universe has field properties, and it also does not just function blind, pushed and pulled by the forces. It functions through intent and plan and purpose, something that we can know in ourselves, what Aristotle called final causality, that for the sake of which everything else happens. Now, the consciousness universe also has a place for the feminine. The feminine has a lot to do with, it has something to do with oneness, with no boundary, with wholeness, with the larger perspective. And so finally the feminine has a place, because the feminine, if it's an experience of oneness, can sense the field properties of consciousness that are everywhere. We aren't just, when you walk by a tree, you're not just walking by a thing, or bored feet, or matter and mechanism. You're walking by a spiritual being who's probably as interested in you as you are in it. And so this universe has a place for the feminine in a way the old matter mechanism universe hasn't. And well, it has a place for the feminine, and so it has a place for women. And this universe also has a place for reincarnation. Now, I last talked to you about reincarnation, that this is the most important idea that the human race needs to get hold of at this point in its rather tortured history. It was the centerpiece of Jesus' teaching. The disaster that the modern world is, I would say, owes to a single fact, and it's that reincarnation has not been taught in the West. It was the center of Jesus' teaching. It was banned by the church claiming to teach in his name, that decided way back in the 4th century that the populace could best be controlled by fear. And at that moment, all mention of reincarnation was deleted from the scripture, and the fear terms that really dominate just about every man-made religion were inserted. I don't need to tell you what they are. Jesus taught the God who is love. Religious authorities do not want a God of love. They want a vengeful, judgmental God with whom to terrify the people and keep everyone in line. And so, pretty well, all the man-made religions are fear-based. And, they talk about love and they talk about a lot of things, but when you look how they function, they're fear-based. Okay. Why is reincarnation so important? It is the key to 4 great mysteries. The first is our own human identity. The second is the real nature of the physical world around us and what physical reality really is. The third, the human condition. And then reincarnation gives us a breathtaking glimpse into the kinds of causalities that come with consciousness. Because I'm saying that the Cartesian worldview, in the Cartesian view of things, the universe consists of things pushed around by the forces. It functions blind. This is a very microscopic aspect of a much greater universe. And this greater universe, if you want to be in this greater universe, just walk out among the trees, walk out in the meadows, be with the stars at night, start to recoup the feelings and the knowing that we left behind us thousands of years ago. And we have gotten ourselves to this complicated and convoluted little Cartesian way of thinking. It will not work for the greater universe. And so we're letting in the light. We're letting in. Civilization is in the process of, on one hand, the old paradigms are disintegrating, the old attitudes to the earth, like the earth is something to be conquered, or she's commodities and resources to be ripped off to make a fast buck. The earth is living beings that need to be nurtured and cared for, needs to be loved. And if we can finally pull it off and bring love here, it will have a lot to do with the fact that the feminine is coming in and the women are here. Because women tend to be love-based in general. And the male impulse is fear-based. It functions by control. And these attitudes to the planet have brought us to a pitch where the survival of both the earth and ourselves is really in question. So that's the backdrop. Okay. Human identity. I'm not going to talk, I didn't talk in those talks about the evidence for reincarnation. You can find it everywhere these days. I'm just talking about what it means, that reincarnation is the way a consciousness universe works. The consciousness universe has a place for reincarnation, which is a process whereby one soul takes on different bodies and different personalities again and again, lays them down. The key to human identity, we are, all of us, eternal, immortal, spiritual beings who reincarnate. We take on the whole cycle of earthly lives in order to develop certain abilities, to realize certain purposes, to learn certain lessons. And when we have completed our cycle of earthly lives, then we depart for other parts of the spiritual or physical universe. We are an immortal being. We aren't just consciousness in a body. What this does, of course, it ends both the religious picture of human life and the scientific picture of human life. For the scientific picture, human beings are an animal like any other. We evolve through evolution to our present state. We're born, we live, we die, disintegrate, and that's it. For the religious picture, the human soul is created at conception. It lives one short life on the basis of which it is judged for all eternity and sent either to heaven or to the other, rather dark places. Both of these pictures are just ridiculously simplistic. You know, human beings would be bored to death in a static heaven. They would have to, we'd probably have to have a war or something to liven things up. Both of those pictures are over. We are evolving beings in a universe that is evolving, where all beings are evolving in complex connection and interrelationship, so that there's a kind of enlightenment happening all around us all the time. It continues after we end our cycle of earthly lives. So, you know, well, okay. So that's the new universe picture. That's who we are. We come here with reasons for being here. This is not an accident. We are not functioning blind. We are here for certain purposes. Okay, what about physical reality then? Well, okay. I've been saying all along that physical reality, matter, is actually an expression of consciousness. That consciousness is what's real, matter comes second. It's an expression of consciousness. Well, I'm in a physical body. It's in 3 dimensions. But my whole inner life, or soul life, or psychic life, is in many dimensions. Somewhere in us there's knowledge of all our past lives, enormous knowledge of the planet, enormous knowledge of human life. If the beings around us are likewise spiritual beings, and as many channeled sources say, they also reincarnate. Physical existence, which many scientists and many people think is the really real, the hard stuff, is a highly dependent form of existence. It comes into existence, it goes out. My consciousness is much more continuous and stronger. I take up lives, I lay them down. I take up a body, I lay it down. Consciousness goes on. And I would suggest at this point that probably consciousness is the indestructible. I've said on this, the consciousness universe, the common denominator of every universe, physical or purely spiritual, is consciousness. That is the common term for all universes. Now it's not quite like Einstein's speed of light being the same in all universes, even though it isn't the same in all mediums, but consciousness is the real common denominator. So, physical reality is, things are not what they seem. The senses are lovely liars. Jesus, seeing they see not, hear they hear not. And the senses aren't giving us the real truth of what we're looking at. The real truth is that the trees are spiritual beings like ourselves. The animals, they're all spiritual beings like ourselves. They all reincarnate, which deepens the question of what we're all doing here together. Okay, the human condition. Reincarnation is the right principle for understanding the truth of our lives. We choose our parents for what abilities and gifts we can acquire through them. We come here with purposes. We draw to ourselves the experiences and the people we need to help us achieve those purposes. There has to be, our common models for human behavior at this point are given by psychology, and we're taken to be the victims of our early childhood, of parents and genes and drives. Well, the truth is, there's something much more interactive going on. It's not reductive. And this new view of things begins to cut the ground under our obsession with reducing things. We reduce life down to physics and chemistry. We reduce the molecules down to the forces, down to the particles, and then it all evaporates. Nobody knows. Consciousness is much more real than matter. Consciousness makes use of matter and energy in endlessly creative ways. And you want to know something about it, just look at yourself, how we do these things. So it's the principle of understanding our lives. And already the man that the child will become, the man or woman the child will become, is guiding the child's development into that mature being. The other thing that's quite surprising is that we come here with purposes. We're not just the victims of one life. We come here with what Aristotle called final causality, reasons for being. Most of the world's great religions teach reincarnation. It was banned in the West for reasons that I've said. And so, the human condition, well, really, thanks to the cunning and conniving of male priests, we've never known it. The truth of the human condition is that we're here, we have made the earth a vale of tears that it is, because we've never realized our stay is very temporary. It's very short. We aren't here to devour the planet. We aren't here to destroy each other. We're here to awaken and to bring to earth a lot of the beautiful qualities that we know in the spirit world from whence we come. Reincarnation is the great equalizer. The overall purpose of all of our lives is to just experience life on the earth plane, in every sex, in every social role, in all climates, in all parts of the world, rich, poor, just every aspect of life. Reincarnation is the great equalizer. We are all deeply equal in that that's our life project. And it means there's no reason to look down on anybody, because what you look down upon, some poor person, you either have been in the past or you will be in the future. And who are the poor? Kissinger thought they were bottom feeders and should be exterminated. You know, the poor are they were kings and queens in past lives, spiritual leaders, craftsmen, all sorts of things. Things are not what they seem. And probably a lot of the poor are much more evolved than Henry Kissinger. The Henry Kissingers of the world that play fast and loose with power and with other people's lives. So reincarnation is an equalizer in that sense. If reincarnation had been taught in the West, there would have been no suppression of women. Women are, the gifts of both sexes would have been honored, because you're not divine in your male life, but not in your female life. It's a great equalizer. There would have been no reason for the 17th century council to decide whether women had souls, passed by 3 votes. Knowing that the truth of our lives is that we reincarnate, gives our identities we play our parts on a very great stage indeed. Our true identities are mythic. We are not just the victims of our childhood. We come here with reasons for being here. We know what we're doing. Deep down we all know it. Human life is laced by purposes at all levels, many of them just at the soul level, not conscious, but at some level we know exactly what we're here for. And then, more on the human condition, reincarnation, 1, puts the ground under ethics. There are many levels of meaning here. On one level, justice prevails. That's the meaning of reincarnation. Because it always comes with an understanding of karma. And karma means, really, in the simplest way of saying it, what you do to others or another will be done back to you by that person in this or another life. Now, this is not punishment. This is a way to understand another person. To understand how you affected that person by experiencing what they did done back to you. It's a way to understand and to know. And so what this means is that, I'll tell you about that in a minute. What it starts to suggest about the nature of the universe. We come here, there's only one law. I would say the modern world, in this sense, is a function of the fact that reincarnation has not been taught in the West, because people are completely unethical these days. Everybody does what they think they can get away with. We have all of this kind of Freudian psychology that says, well, you can't possibly be held accountable for your actions because you're all determined by childhood. You couldn't help what your parents did to you. It's a kind of stimulus response version of human beings. People aren't good at physical causality. They aren't good at knowing that poisons we put down our sinks will end up in our drinking water. Even less are they any good at at spiritual realities, at ethical realities. But what is beginning to shape in our consciousness is that we are all part of an enormous moral order. And people do what they think they can get away with. You really can't get away with anything. And this is not a punishment. This is the fact that you are responsible and you are accountable to yourself, to your higher self, and to the truth of the universe. That we are all connected. And we are all somehow responsible for all. And I think we are all also deeply connected with the earth. There is only one law of the earth plane. Everybody knows it when they come here. Harm to none. And then everybody forgets it or they get talked out of it. The most important thing to realize is that no God is punishing you. You hold the keys to your destiny in your own hands. And when you realize that Jesus had reincarnation in mind when he spoke many of his sayings, they become absolutely luminous, like you reap what you sow, or do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the basis of ethics. Reincarnation puts the ground under ethics. We're all here together, human and earthlings and all the animals and the plants, working out the meanings of love on the earth plane. And that's the tip-off that reincarnation affords, that our earthly lives have something to do with understanding truth, love. And this is beginning to look like a rather interesting universe. It's not just mechanics. Something else is going on. Okay. And I would say I'm going to put the ground under religion, or a true religion, in a while. But these ideas, it's vital that you get a hold of these ideas because they will empower you. And the most important thing to know about reincarnation is that somehow embedded within it and behind it and all around it is an absolute unconditional love, absolute acceptance, absolute affirmation. This unconditional love that is absolutely built into the fabric of the universe is not like the school systems. It's not like parents, teachers, friends who love you if. And what it means is we are not striving for better grades or whatever. People take the time they need. There's time to learn lessons. There's no big rush. There's compassion, help at every level of these spiritual hierarchies. Channel Source it was truly a 20th century phenomenon, 21st century. Tell us that they come to the planet to help us get through this really very difficult times that we have created for ourselves. There is help available. There's kindness at every level. And so reincarnation also puts the ground under values. You know, if this is the ultimate perspective on our lives, that we're here to develop abilities and grow and learn, well, the values are really dominating the modern world, like power, kind of a very political kind of power, without any real reason for using it, but just power or money or wars, endless wars for endless peace, or the kinds of things that drive people to amass masses of possessions. These are all irrelevant. You know, we are immortal beings. We are only here for a short while. We need to leave a light footprint, not desecrate the planet and destroy it, as in fact we are engaged in doing. And so here's an important perspective on us all. And both the Buddha and Jesus taught kind-heartedness. We are all in this together. We all need each other. And we have to be compassionate. Let's just take a little break, Rock, and then I'll go on. Okay, how's that look?
It looks good.
Is it good?
So far, I believe this is our best picture so far.
It's the best one?
The best looking picture.
Great.
The best exposure that I've been able to capture
Wonderful.
with the camera.
Okay, so now, so here we are in the modern world. Our consciousness precedes our birth, it survives our death. Unless developmental biologists understand this, they will never understand how the nervous system develops. They're missing all of the guiding principles. The real forces, the real driving impulses are not in present-day science. Now, they belong to consciousness, and they come with consciousness. And so reincarnation, I'm going to suggest, gives us a breathtaking glimpse of what the causalities are that come with consciousness. First of all, everywhere we can see it, mental events precede physical events. I will to raise my arm, it goes up. I get the idea that I'm going to meet a friend for dinner, and that sets in motion a whole train of physical events. I pick up the phone, I dial a number, we talk. Michael Newton, I recommend his books because he regresses people into the spirit world while they're choosing a life, and learns a lot about the mechanics of how this is all done. But apparently what we do is, when we're in the spirit world choosing a life, we lay out our whole life in our imagination or mentally, who we're going to meet, when, where, all the things the major events that were going to take place, and then we come in and live it physically. And of course we forget all of this very elaborate framework that we all were perfectly conversant with. It's pretty obvious that the human being is a much richer, deeper, and more complex being than either religion or science have ever even imagined. Okay, so mental causalities precede, mental events precede physical. And I dare say that the major causalities in the universe are mental. That the universe is not a great sea of mechanisms, it's a great sea of consciousness. And it's a sea of meanings, and something very different is happening. It's a richer, more wonderful, something caring universe, because there's love embedded in it at all levels. And so, the second causality that comes with consciousness, I've mentioned already, intent, plan, purpose, final causality. We come here for reasons for being here. We all know deep down what they are, although consciously we have forgotten them, but they're driving us. The animals have reasons for being here. The trees, they have their reasons for being here. I think there's only two questions for anybody. First, who am I? And then, why am I here? What's my life purpose? Why have I come in now, at this time in our history? What am I doing here? What should I be doing here? And there's lots of advice and all kinds of help available from spiritual levels of the universe to answer these questions today, as there may have never been in any time of our past, because we didn't know all these things. And it's my life purpose that determines the time I come in, my sex, my body, my friends, everything. It's aligned according to life purpose. And again, this is a possibility and a reality in the consciousness universe. Okay, then take a look. You want to know the causalities of consciousness? Take a look at your own. Ideas. Everything human beings do is underpinned by ideas. We live by them, we argue about them, we try to get clear about them, we fight wars over them. Not a causality. I would say ideas are organizing principles of our consciousness. They focus consciousness, and they direct it and channel it. Both Einstein and Gödel thought ideas are not just in us, they're there in the universe. Now, modern science is conversant with mathematical ideas, but mathematical ideas are just a subclass of all ideas. And so I would say ideas are organizing and focusing principles of our consciousness and of our lives. Evolution. Evolution is the unfolding of ideas. History, it's the unfolding of ideas, because ideas are organizing principles of consciousness. And there's more, because consciousness, in fact, with its field properties, is more than these very focused ideas. There's something else I want to tell you about ideas. Oh, yes. The great idealists had ideas as a causality, but they did not have the field properties of consciousness. Science has the field properties of energy, but nobody knows how energy knows what it's doing. Science is missing the intelligence that organizes energy. Well, the view I'm sketching out for you reconciles both of those. The field properties of consciousness, consciousness organized by ideas. I would say the universe is a great sea of consciousness. Matter is a kind of thin veneer over something much more real, much more permanent, the invisible in the visible. And so we are going to start looking at the earth, the world, and people around us with new lives, because we are looking at something invisible, more real and eternal, shining through the material reality all around us. It's not just brute matter. It's not just bored feet. The physical world that we are looking at is a manifestation of something invisible but more real. And so we begin lifting the major veils over every illusion. The source, I would say, for just about every illusion that human beings have trapped themselves in is the conviction that matter is just brute matter. It has no intelligence. Even the least little bit of matter has intelligence. Even the least little bit of matter is an expression of consciousness. And consciousness goes into form and out of form. There are very stable ideas. Ideas have a lifetime. Some are extremely stable, some just come and go, like our thoughts. They're one of the ultimate causalities in the universe. Another is love. Now, we know this in ourselves. I would say both ideas and love have no place whatsoever in the matter mechanism universe. They are an aspect of consciousness. They are associated with consciousness. They organize consciousness. And I would say emotions are, love and emotions are, say, our feminine modes. The ideas are our masculine modes. They work together. The wellspring of all of our actions would seem to be love, and also that at which we aim. Think of the amount of time we all spend trying to be loved or love or whatever. These can be causalities in the universe. They're right there in the fabric of the universe because they belong to consciousness, not to matter and mechanism. I would say they can be causalities. I want to remind you of my principle of interpretation. My principle of interpretation is not, as the male thinkers do, emphasize our total difference from everything else. It's to emphasize our likeness, our connectedness to everything. And that to say that love and ideas, this is not being anthropomorphic. We are simply an instance. We are part and parcel of the universe that we're trying to know. And we are simply an instance of the greater universe. And if we look at ourselves in the right way, we'll understand the principles that function in every aspect of reality. And at the base, I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, ideas, love, and then we have a kind of faculty called the will, which can translate ideas into action, into the practical world. Okay. Now, these causalities are not the causalities that come with things. They come with selves. S-E-L-V-E-S. And I am saying, and I have said it elsewhere, that this is the real difference between the two universe pictures. The Cartesian universe consists of things. The consciousness universe is organized into selves, beings, which have a sense of self, which have subjectivity, which have a kind of I, or a sense of their own identity, in which terms like self-fulfillment or self-development or self-knowing are terms, and which have the most phenomenal characteristic of all, knowable only in ourselves, subjectivity. I would say many people these days are beginning to say, well, it's subjectivity all the way down. What's it doing there? That's the real question. What's it doing there? Subjectivity is the ultimate causality of the universe. We can know it, just look at ourselves. Everything we do originates in subjectivity, and it ends in subjectivity. And so maybe there's a very interesting, when Moses asks God, well, who shall I say is sending me down to Egypt to rescue the Hebrews, the Israelites? God says, tell them, I am sent you. There's something about subjectivity that is bedrock in the universe. The Gospels ring with subjectivity. I am the sheep gate. I am the way, the truth, and the light. I am. There's something magical about I am, and about the little I that we all spend a lot of time talking about, and giving itself medals and things. So subjectivity comes with selves. Many cosmologists and scientists, physicists, think that embodied in the universe is one very simple idea. I would say it's the idea of self, of a self. Let there be, as if the universe is functioning under an imperative, let there be infinite selves of every kind, degree, and description, such that the purposes of each self are totally compatible with the purposes of every other self. Now that's a universal picture that ought to guide human society. So that belongs with selves. And what's driving? Well, then a lot of other terms come, like freedom, like free will. These are properties of consciousness. Freedom, free will, creativity, intelligence, these are all aspects of consciousness. And so we're getting a very new universe picture. I would say we have a new heaven and a new earth. The stars, they're not just burning lumps of matter. They're spiritual beings in physical form. Magnificent spiritual beings in physical form. The physical world is so beautiful because it is in fact an expression of consciousness. You need to take this term consciousness as your principle of understanding and your principle of interpretation, and see what it opens to you. So we're connected not just in physics and chemistry, but we're connected consciousness to consciousness. And when you know this, you can walk out in the woods and start communing with the trees and the animals. You can open your consciousness to theirs. There are many ways of knowing in a consciousness universe that are not just science. Now, if you're around scientists, their convictions of knowing are pretty clear. Science knows, philosophy is so much hot air, and religion is outmoded superstition. Well, in the consciousness universe, everybody can know, and there are many ways of knowing that have a place and are not all bound up with instruments that measure, that weigh and measure, aren't bound up with the procedures of modern science. There are lots of other ways of gaining information about the universe. And since it's consciousness and we are consciousness, it's obvious that there can be enormous interactions between ourselves and just about every aspect of the universe. Okay, what's driving it all? The ultimate law of consciousness, and I mentioned this last time. Consciousness must create. And we know this in ourselves. It will turn itself inside out to do so. We achieve a solution to some problem, and then we promptly set out trying to find another answer. We play with our mind. Feynman earned his Nobel Prize for something he discovered at play. The animals play. The young grow up at play. Something quite more wonderful than the forces, the reduction to the purely physical forces is going on. And I've described the forces as shades and silhouettes of the real. Darwin considered them what do you call them? An animating principle of bodies. Pushes and pulls. What pushes? What pulls? No one knows. Okay, so there are rooms for very different causalities in this kind of a universe. Now, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to say, okay, what does this story of things have for you?